When sales performance is struggling, we tend to focus on the salespeople. They need coaching, they need training, they need development. But hang on a second, let's be clear. If you have an underperforming sales team, it's not your team's fault, it's your fault. Coming up next, I'll tell you why. This is Sales Untraining, a very different kind of sales podcast. 3 out of 4 salespeople are failing. They're falling short of their revenue. Why doesn't sales training work? That's what this sales podcast is about. It's your weekly sales strategy guide designed to rewire your sales brain. Welcome to Sales Untraining. I'm Kelly Riggs. Great to have you alongside. And today I get the special privilege of inviting in a guy with a very similar hairstyle, which is apparently how I judge whether I bring people onto the show or not. But listen, in the open, we talked about if you have a struggling sales team, it's not your team's fault, it's your fault. And I want to talk to Kevin Gaither about that today, among a whole lot of other accolades and history and performance. This is a guy who spent a lot of time as a VP of sales of ZipRecruiter. And if you've been on the radio any amount of time, you've heard plenty of advertisements, Kevin, about ZipRecruiter. But you also had an audio book that you put out in 2023, helping it happened on the sales floor. I can only imagine there's got to be a lot of great stories. But hey, welcome to Sales Untraining. Great to have you.
Hey Kelly, thanks for having me. Happy to share my stories and my mistakes. It's all I got, stories and mistakes, man.
That's what makes it work, doesn't it? I mean, the stories and mistakes that we share. Well, listen, I labor under this idea that we've kind of got a lot of things backwards when it comes to sales training. And one of the things that's really backwards is that when people are struggling sales-wise, when sales performance is down, then we typically look at the sales team, the salespeople. But I asked people 3 very simple questions. Who hires these people? Who trains these people? And who leads these people? So if you have an underperforming team, Kevin, it's really hard to look at the salespeople and say, well, it's their fault. And I always have somebody go, hey, hang on a second, Kelly, you don't understand. I've got people on my sales team that can't walk and chew gum at the same time. And I always ask this, whose fault is that? So how do you approach the idea of sales leadership? I know this is a really important topic for you.
Yeah, it's all I know. I've spent nearly 30 years in sales and sales leadership at startups, and it sounds so trite, Kelly, but the buck stops with the sales leader. And if the sales leader can't take responsibility for what happens on their team, nothing's going to improve. In fact, I've written about this before. The poor sales leaders, Kelly, are the ones that take credit when things are going well and point fingers when things are going poorly.
Right. Right.
But the great sales leader is going to defer that credit when things are going well. Think about, sports teams. The coach is always like, well, it's the offensive line. It wasn't me, and they did all the work. And great sales leaders deflect that when things are going well. And when things are going poorly, the sales leader is going to say, that's on me. And if a sales leader doesn't have that type of mentality that they're going to take responsibility for it, then they have, in my opinion, they don't have the mental ability to make things better. They don't have they don't have the awareness, to make things better. If they can't, and you said it perfectly, who hired them, who trained them, who coaches them and leads them? Okay, right. It's on you. It's on the sales leader entirely.
What's really interesting is 2023 for a lot of companies coming off the high of COVID infused money into the marketplace where things were just, if you were in sales, if you could catch a fastball, you were making a lot of money. And in 2023, the world came crashing back to normal. And it's not unusual, Kevin, for me to hear sales leaders saying, well, it's the economy. I don't understand the mindset where, as you mentioned, well, when we're doing great, it's me. But when we're not doing great, it's the economy. Do you have the same experience in the last year?
Well, I've been running my own business for the last 3 years. And The answer is yes. I'm sort of hemming and hawing on this one because I have a better story to tell. But I'll talk about the present time. Honestly, my revenues year over year have been down 68%, Kelly. 68%. There are very few gurus out there that are going to admit when the proverbial poop has hit the fan, okay? But instead of me saying to myself, "Oh well, geez, things will turn around," I became obsessed with other aspects of the business to say, "Okay, well, revenue's down here. Why is that? Let's figure out, is it time to pivot? Do I need to change things?" And so I'm in this discovery process of changing the way I think about the business because it's on me. It's not on the economy. It's my responsibility.
Right.
But a better story to tell you is back in 2007 when the mortgage meltdown occurred.
Right.
You may recall, and many sales leaders listening or leaders listening to your podcast might recall how quickly everything went to hell in a handbasket. It went so fast. It was like fax machines rolling and taking in orders. And in a matter of 6 months, it was like done. Committee buys, slow buys, no buys. And during that period of time, 2007, I implemented an entirely new sales methodology, and I turned over my sales team 100%. Now, the HR people that are listening to this podcast are likely just going wee-wee in their pants because 100% turnover. Oh my God, what in the heck is going wrong with your sales team? Nothing went wrong. In fact, I made the changes that I needed to make during that time. Instead of making excuses and saying, "Oh, mortgage meltdown," and da 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 da, I said, "No, we need to change the way we go to market." And we doubled our average contract value. We doubled our average contract value during that period of time. Of course, I'm not going to get credit for that per se, although that company did get acquired and we made a boatload of money. So I'll take that. But the point is that instead of saying, "Woe is me," or pointing at my salespeople, I took action to change how we were doing business. And the people that were on the team did not fit into that philosophy. And I took the steps to get rid of those people and bring in new people. Am I proud of the fact that I got rid of all those people? God, no, Kelly. Like, that's an awful.
Yeah, that's not the point, right?
No, it's not. It's not the point. But they were not the ones to be on the bus, and I needed to find other people to be on the bus.
Gosh, in so many ways, change is the enemy, isn't it? I mean, so many people get locked into a specific way of doing things, and the dynamics of the environment change dramatically, and it's just that unwillingness to make those kinds of moves. I've long said that you can transform a sales team. You absolutely can do it. You know why people don't? It's hard. I mean, it's just too freaking hard. People just don't want to go through that kind of mess. So much of what I've read from your stuff is fascinating to me. And one of the things that I read recently that you said that I 100% buy into, and I want you to talk about it to the sales and training audience, and that is you can't manage outputs. You can only manage inputs. And that seems just so simplistic, like, of course, but it seems like average sales managers are always looking at the numbers, which are nothing more than a record of what has happened, and they're not managing the actual inputs. Talk more about that.
Yeah. So this conversation, of course, there's always somebody, when I talk about this, there's always somebody that's going to think about micromanagement. Okay. Well, don't micromanage your sales team. No, nobody likes to be micromanaged. Okay.
Right.
However, to your point, if you just sit there as a sales leader and you're refreshing dashboards and saying, "Oh, closed one, oh, closed one, oh, 86% to goal," you're managing your team by looking in the rear view mirror. And that is not the way to be doing this. And in order to create repeatability and predictability, you have to have repeatable inputs and predictable inputs that go into that. And those are the things that you can manage. Those are the things that you can control. You can control how you coach, how you train. how many conversations, how many opportunities should be created. You can control what questions your salespeople have. These are the things that you should be, seeking to control. And when you set expectations of a certain behavior of your sales team, hey, this is our philosophy, this is our team. You're going to create a sustainable team that creates repeatable outputs. And of course, but by contrast, and this is a mistake, this is one of my thousands of mistakes, and I write about this in the book. One of my biggest mistakes that I made when I took over the sales team, actually there was no sales team at ZipRecruiter when I started from scratch.
That's how far back you go. All right.
Yeah, there was none. I thought, you know what? And I was 43 at the time. Yeah, 43 at the time. Old enough to know better. But I still made this mistake, Kelly. As I started to build that sales team, I said, listen, I don't care when you come in. I don't care when you leave. I don't care how long you take lunch. I don't care how much vacation time. I don't care how many dials you make. I don't care. I don't care about any of that stuff. Just hit your goal, hit or exceed your goals. That's all I care about. Okay.
Right.
That's result. Right. That's resulting, by the way. That's
yes.
As long as the end result is there, I don't care how we get there. What an amazingly and galactically ridiculous message to be sending to a sales team, because what we ultimately got was haphazard everything: attendance, lunches, drinking at lunch. We got a whole host of behaviors that was just this not consistent phone calls, not consistent pipeline, just all this like variance, in between. And of course, predictably, for your math majors out there, we had a bell curve. We had a bell curve of performance. So here I was, Kelly, delivering this allegedly wonderful message to the salespeople: do whatever you want, please come and go. And it sounds great. And as a salesperson, it's very attractive. Like, wow, as long as I hit my goals, it's fine. But the reality is we had a distribution of performance. And that distribution of performance is very common across all sales teams. And so there I had 50% of my team below goal and 50% above goal. And I'm scratching my head going, geez, that's really odd. Well, duh, this is, I don't have these predictable, inputs, for I didn't set expectations of predictable inputs. And that was, and of course, what happened then, Kelly? Change management.
Yes.
And you should have seen the Glassdoor reviews. 1 star, don't go work there, it's awful, after 5-star reviews. Why? Because change is tough. I went from super loose. Do whatever you want as long as you're hitting your goals, to we need to tighten this up and create more accountability and expectations than I had. And that was a huge learning lesson. I'm glad that I made that mistake early in the ZipRecruiter tenure, because that would have been awful. It wouldn't have worked. I would have gotten fired.
Sure. Well, I can balance that with a story of my own, and that is there's another side of that pendulum. I work with a luxury auto dealer, and they're really focused on the consistent, repeatable activities. A certain amount of contacts create a certain amount of opportunities. Of course, they get walk-ins and internet leads and other things like that. But there's got to be some sense of contacting outbound opportunities and bringing that in. Well, the big question was, we've got guys who are hitting their numbers. They're doing a great job. But Kelly, the thing about it is they're not doing the number of dials that we require. I'm like, look, you don't pay these people to make dials. You pay them to make sales. If they're making sales outside of your program because of factors that are beyond your control, experience, network, who knows, then you actually pay them to create those results. You use those inputs to make sure that new people know that you can create that predictable path to success. Sometimes that path can have variance for other people. The response is simple. As long as you are hitting those numbers, then I'm fine with it if you've doing it based on some methodology that works for you. But if you're not hitting your numbers, I'm going to be looking at them on a regular basis and asking you, okay, so that way's not working anymore. Now we need to get right back to what we know absolutely works, right? So I think for most people, at least my experience, micromanagement, Kevin, is I'm so honed in on those activities that I'm more concerned about the activities than the results the activities create. And I know that's not what you're saying. You know there's a correlation between the right activity and the right results. You just don't measure how people are doing by looking at the scoreboard. Your team lost 21-10 this past weekend, Kevin. What should they do? Oh, score more points. Thank you. That's insightful. That's helpful.
This is the perfect time of the year, right? Beginning of January, and everybody's setting their goals, right? And it's lose more weight. Lose weight, you know, and it's like that's resulting. And look, I've also written about this. Micromanagement is not bad, but what I think is that salespeople should micromanage themselves. I don't care. So you talk about this, high performer at a car dealership who's hitting their number, but they're not doing like the inputs as prescribed. That person has a playbook that sales leaders should be evaluating and going, well, wait a minute. Maybe there's a better way. We're delineating, the walk-ins and the follow-ups and, all this kind of stuff.
Correct.
But if that top performer has a playbook that's different, those top performers are really awful, by the way, at articulating their playbook. They're not very good at describing how things go. In fact, when you ask a top performer, why are you just successful? They're like, well, I don't know. Well, how does that deal go down? Well, it kind of depends. No, it doesn't. If you observe one of these top producers, they follow a very predictable pattern, but they just can't recognize it. That's just natural to them. It's the, what do you call it? Unconscious competence. Right. And so they just don't know. It's up to the sales leaders, it's the sales leader's responsibility, Kelly, to observe and, talking to your training and enablement, type of people. Go sit with those people for a week and document how they behave and how they operate. And you might actually figure out a way how to bring the middle of your team up because of some of the things, that they are.
I love that
they're doing. Yeah.
I absolutely
micromanage themselves.
Yes.
I hate to use the sports analogy because it alienates certain people that don't get it, but Tiger Woods micromanages the crap out of himself. The guy who'll go hit 3 hours of balls after he plays. Why? Because he knows that he's got to control those inputs and control, his behavior and his practice schedule. Salespeople, same thing. They should micromanage themselves. They should have a predictable playbook that they follow themselves to get to success. It's not random, is really what my point is.
Absolutely. There's just a process to get there. And of course, that's a whole nother topic. We can talk about process and people who don't use it and wonder why they can't be consistent and repeatable. But we've talked a little bit about top performers. And another issue with leaders in particular, when it comes to sales team performance, is they tend to keep low performers on the team. I know you've seen it. I've seen it. It's written about on LinkedIn consistently. And yet it's still one of the most pervasive, consistent problems is, well, Kelly, look, we made our number as a team. 4 or 5 of my guys didn't make their number, but that's irrelevant because we hit our number. Keeping underperformers is not only about hitting your number. It has other impacts, doesn't it?
Yeah, no question about it. And one of my biggest learning lessons is that I used to say to salespeople, look, my expectation is that you're going to hit your number. If you're not hitting your number, 100% to goal. I'd be very clear about that. Yes. That does not meet my expectations. And so 99% to goal, not good. 80% to goal, not good. 99.9% to goal, not good. That's how, and that was a mistake. And what I learned is that we need to create these bigger gradations, by the way. And so what we ended up doing was having goal. So goal is, 100% to goal, meet your target compensation, amazing. Great. Okay. You set promotion thresholds. So, exceptional thresholds, 125% to goal, 130% to goal, your mileage might vary, whatever that number is, but some number above 100% to goal that defines exceptional performance. And exceptional meaning like, 20% of your sales team is going to be in that like exceptional level. Okay.
Sure.
Not everybody gets a trophy. So not everybody could be up there. Okay. But then, Kelly, most importantly, defining minimum thresholds, 60% to goal, 70% to goal. How do you go about doing that? You in an ideal world, you got enough financial horsepower, math horsepower behind you where you can define what the minimum costs are, like the break even. So if a salesperson hits 65% to goal, they're break even. Okay. Like if in an ideal world, you set that minimum at that threshold. Okay. This is a long-winded answer, but it's important to like distinguish here, because one of the mistakes that I made is in defining low performers was under 100% to goal. Okay?
Yeah, so that's fair.
So somebody who's at 90% to goal, I now would not consider them to be a low performer. They help fill out that bell curve, and not everybody. And literally, if everybody is at 100% to goal, Kelly, your goals are too low, your territories are not properly, your head count's not right. There's something wrong if everybody is at 100% to goal. And of course, the other way around, if nobody's hitting goal, that's a problem. That's a problem too. Okay. But
to interject, it also means that, if somebody comes in at 90% of plan, you're not accounting for the fact that stuff happens during the year, completely outside of their control. They lose their biggest account for the year and they still hit 90%. I mean, that's a win as far as I'm concerned.
That's a win. Exactly. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay.
Agreed.
But so I'm setting up the answer. Like we talked about, your question was about the impact of holding on to low performers and why we do it. So the first lesson that I learned was, let's define what low performance actually means. So number one, I would define that at 65, 70% to goal, whatever that number. Again, ideally it's a break-even point. Okay. Once you have 20% of your salespeople below that threshold, that's dangerous on a number of fronts, as you've alluded to. One, if you set that minimum properly, in other words, at break even, then it's clear as a bell that this person's losing you money. and holding on to that person is fiscally irresponsible to the business. So you are purposefully throwing money out the door by holding on to that person. Okay. So that's mistake number one. If you set minimum thresholds at break-even levels and that person is below that minimum threshold and a low performer, you are literally saying to the company, I don't care. I'm going to burn money. And that's expensive dollars. Like the average AE now is like $150,000 in SaaS, like $150,000. Like you're burning a lot of money if you hold on to something like that. So that's number one. But the worst and most pervasive problem becomes the other performers on the team seeing you hold on to this low performer.
Yes.
And that means that you tolerate that performance. And that is such a dangerous place to be, because maybe you end up wising up at some point in time and go, gosh, I really shouldn't have held on to that person, so long. And you then go to take action on somebody else who was below minimum thresholds. God help you if that person's in a protected class. So now you're like, well, wait a minute, you didn't get rid of so-and-so over there, but you're getting rid of me. What's the double standard? Oh, it must be because you're taking action against somebody who's in protected.
And to be clear, there is a double standard. there is at that point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. If you didn't take the action before and now you are there, there absolutely is. And it's just a slippery slope. But look, I know why. I've been there. You've been there. Why do you hold on to something like that?
Yeah.
Sadly. One, you have a heart. You have a heart. You hope this person can do better. They're saying all the right things to you, and they show blips of work ethic, and you're like, okay, maybe they can do it. Okay, you have a heart. Number two, and this is you can hear your finance people over your shoulder saying this to you. Well, something's better than nothing. Something's better than nothing. Yeah, but you don't have to manage this person.
Right.
So something is not better than nothing, because it's not a 1+1 = 2. It's like you tolerate that low performance. Yeah, you get 50% of quota, which is something, but the effect of holding on to that is much larger than the dollar amount that you gain from holding on to that.
Yeah, the impact on morale is just overwhelming. And yet, even though, it's intuitive or counterintuitive, because you and I know this, we've talked about it. People talk about it all the time. You talk to sales leaders, they'll flat tell you, yeah, I know, I should do something, and they don't, right? So there's a fear of confrontation. There's all kinds of things going on, and it's just silly. When I first became a sales manager at 28 years of age, I think it was, I didn't do a lot of things right, but it turns out I did that part right. I told everybody, listen, if you're at 85% of plan for 2 consecutive quarters, you are potentially in danger of losing your job. 85%. Where did I get that number? I have no idea. But everybody knew. They'd be like, oh man, I really got to pick it up. It made life a lot easier in terms of managing. Well, listen, great conversation with Kevin Gaither. Coming up next, we're going to talk about how you measure the success of a sales leader. You're going to want to pay attention. Stay with us. I'm Kelly Riggs, host of the Sales Untraining podcast. A couple of quick questions for you. Do you hire salespeople? Is sales turnover far too high in your organization? Do you struggle to find A players for your sales team? Well, these are very common questions, and there is a better way to hire. I'm a partner with Objective Management Group, OMG, and they have been assessing sales candidates for over 30 years. In fact, they've assessed over 2.5 million salespeople. Now, this is a very different type of assessment. First thing out of your mind is it another behavioral assessment? Is it a psychometric tool? Is it a personality quiz? No, nothing like that. It is based on 21 very specific sales competencies. And you need to listen to this. This is crazy. It is 91% predictive of sales performance. That's right, 91% predictive. You can't even make a claim like that without the science behind it. Listen, if you struggle to find the right people, or if you just need a lot more help in the hiring process and making sure you're getting in front of the right people to hire, please email me, kelly@bizlockerroom.com. Oh, by the way, and you can absolutely try it for free, and it has a guarantee. kelly@bizlockerroom.com. Back to the show. Welcome back. It's Sales Untraining. I'm Kelly Riggs. It's your weekly sales strategy guide designed to completely rewire your sales brain. Why? Well, because we just do a lot of things wrong when it comes to training salespeople, developing sales leaders, creating sales performance. And I'm really excited to have Kevin Gaither join me as we talk about that. And in this second segment, as we wrap it up, we want to talk about how you measure the success of a sales leader. We talked about in the first segment, we hire them, we train them, we lead them, talking about salespeople. So Kevin, how do you go about measuring the success of a sales leader? Because isn't this an easy answer? You just look at the numbers and see if they hit their numbers, right? It's that simple.
Sure. Just look at just look at the numbers. No, the answer is no. I used to think that, but then I learned a few things. Go on vacation. Have your sales leader go on vacation, take Slack off their phones, and their messages off their phones, and you will determine whether or not you have a successful sales leader on your hand or not. Because when that sales leader is away from the business, not sitting on the floor, not on Slack, not constantly available, does the team continue to operate flawlessly? And if they don't, it's clear that you don't have a successful salesperson. In fact, this is so counterintuitive to our own self-preservation tendencies, Kelly. Great sales leaders should be trying to create a sales team that works well without
them.
If they got hit by, and as awful as it sounds and as morbid as it sounds, I always used to say to my sales leaders that were, working with me, reporting up into me, you have to think about, if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, will your sales team continue to operate flawlessly without you?
Right.
And if it can, then fantastic. But how do you know? And the best way to know is, and I'm not joking, go away.
Literally. Yeah. Go on vacation.
Go on vacation. And you tell, and I actually have a white paper on my, or a white paper. I've got a download on my site on like, here's what you need to do for a sales leader to go on vacation properly. But if you do that, and then you come back and you'll learn very quickly what went wrong, what went right. And then you take steps to make sure that that's repeatable. Sorry, not the mistakes, but like you fix the glitch.
Right.
And ultimately, you want to make sure that you are not the bottleneck. That's the key.
Right.
You want to make sure that the sales leader is not this bottleneck. And again, like I said, contrary to our own self-preservation tendencies, I had a sales leader say to me one time, "No, KG, you don't understand. Everything goes through me, and that creates job security." And I'm like,
of course it does. Of course it does.
I'm like, yeah, but it's the worst job ever. And if you happen to leave, like take a day off or go on a vacation, God forbid, your boss is going to figure out how much of a shit show you're running.
Isn't this
everything has to,
but Kevin, listen, I can hear people going, hang on a second. You're contradicting yourself, Kelly and Kevin. What you just said is that the sales leader is responsible for everything. We hire them, we train them, we lead them.
Yes.
And then when something goes wrong, I'm supposed to say, yeah, but I need to set it up where it's not about me. So let me tie it together with the micromanagement discussion we had earlier, right? People often ask, can you be a micromanager and be successful? Oh, yeah, of course, absolutely. The problem is players don't want to work for a micromanager, and you're not creating that success legacy that you're talking about. So, yeah, it feels great to be in control, micromanaging and all that, because look at the evidence. My numbers are great until, as you mentioned, I go on vacation. It's a true story. Went on vacation one time, and I see this guy. He looks professional because he's sitting on the beach and he is dressed professionally, and he's got his laptop and he's got an iPad and he's got his phone and another phone. And so I can't help myself. I'm like, hey, what do you do? Well, turns out he's a sales leader and he's keeping tabs on everything and he's reviewing numbers. I'm like, oh, so you're here for a conference? Oh no, I'm here on vacation. I mean, I couldn't stand it. Oh, come on, dude. Really? It's unbelievable.
Look, no, it's not unbelievable. It's completely believable. It's completely believable because I've done that. I've done that myself. And number one, I just, I learned that that's not a good way, like to recharge. It's not a good way to connect with your family. It's sending a clear message when you're sitting there with your family and you're on your iPad, your laptop, and that's what you care about. Like you're literally sending that message. This is what I care about. I don't care about my kids. I don't, playing in the pool, or my wife who's sitting next to me reading a book. Like I don't care about any of that stuff. I just care about, and there's something to be said for being responsible to the business. But
yes,
I know from experience that you can still be responsible and accountable to the business, but not have to be in it every single minute. I didn't make this up, by the way. I learned this from my own mistakes and then seeking out how to do it better. And one of the best books that I ever read, and my gut tells me that you've read it, is it's called for God's sakes, now I can't think of it. It's by Michael Gerber, and it's called
The E-Myth. E-Myth Revisited.
Thank you. I knew it. I knew you would know it. The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And he talks about how all of the best businesses have great processes where you can hire people into a process and the business works through these processes and policies and not dependent upon the leader being there all the time. And the leader, if things go wrong when they're not there, they have to take responsibility for that and fix these processes and expectations. Yeah.
I absolutely love this. Nobody's going to do it. Leaders, CEOs, general managers, business owners, you won't do it. But if you want to find out what's wrong with the sales team, if you're like you don't know, then pay for your sales manager to go on an extended vacation, a week, 10 days, something like that, and just observe what happens to the sales team while they're gone. And tell them, by the way, you cannot contact them, you cannot intersect with them, you can't answer emails. I'm shutting everything down. I just want to see how everybody does while you're gone. Nobody will do that, but oh my word, talk about finding out where the problems lie when activities go in the tank and people quit doing, the little things, and they don't pay attention to detail, and they can't self-manage and self-direct and all of those kinds of things. You realize sales leader is the bottleneck. It doesn't mean he or she's not great at what they do. What they're not doing, Kevin, is leading. Right? They're just, I call it the self-limiting team of one. I just have some assistants that work for me while I'm there, but I'm supposed to be developing them. So one great way to measure the success of a sales leader, let them go on vacation. Give me another one.
I mean, I can't think of another great
In terms of measuring the success of a sales leader, give me something else to look at.
I mean, for me, it's all about when they leave. It's all about like when they're not absent. And again, we could talk about amount of salespeople, president's club, performing,
Sure.
salespeople, that type of thing.
Well, let's vamp on that a little bit then. If that's the thing, let's say you're the owner and you're the guy that just sent the sales leader out on vacation. Okay, what would you go looking for? What would be the telltale signs that you would go, we've got a leadership problem? I mean, some of it's obvious, I think, but what are some of the specific things you would be looking for?
Well, again, it's all about the process and the policy. And here's just an example of this. One of my biggest pet peeves. Can we chat? Got 5 minutes? Can we talk? That those text messages, the Slack messages, that right, type of thing. Right. If you're going on vacation and let's just say you shut everything down. Let's just say the sales manager does take that vacation, and the CEO does take them up on, completely shutting them out and letting them tune out. Okay. If that CEO observes the salespeople continually coming to the CEO saying, hey, got 5 minutes? What am I supposed to do here? And can we chat quickly? I need help with this over here. It's a very good indicator that you have not established like good expectations of behavior or where to get those answers, to your questions. And again, that's a little bit more of on a microcosmic level. But the point is that whether the sales manager is in the office or not in the office there, having that, those salespeople being able to operate. Now, the sales manager, sales leader, they should be there to help their salespeople and help them get better and help them improve in their careers. That's a cornerstone of my leadership tenets. It's like, always be helping. I want them to get better. Okay. So I'm not saying that I don't want to be talking to my salespeople. I do when it can be very material. If you're asking me questions on how to reset a password, and if you're, hey, where can I find the latest marketing material? If you find that that's the kind of questions that you're getting from your salespeople and you're jumping on Slack to answer that question, you're doing it wrong. You should be working with them to help them self-serve until it gets to this, like the material, like, let's talk about winning this deal. Let's talk about getting you promoted, like really material coaching types of conversations, and not this, easily replaceable got 5 minutes. How do I change my password? Where's the latest
Sure.
marketing material? Where's that email that I'm supposed to be sending out after, intro conversation one, whatever that might be. Those
Right.
are all failures of leadership. And it's successful when you can keep that, got 5 minutes, can we chat? When you can keep that to a minimum.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's the thing I'm looking for is those little erratics in the heartbeat that you go, something's not right here. And that's an easy one if you're checking. I think without question, you would agree that measuring the success of a sales leader is their ability to bring in talent. And one of the things that you focus on a lot, obviously, is that we don't typically hire capable, competent talent. And man, it's such a leakage in an organization that we don't train sales leaders how to actually hire. That is such a huge problem.
Yes, and I missed your prompt there, obviously, because I believe that hiring, interviewing, recruiting is the number one skill that a sales leader should develop. It's the tip of the spear. It's all that matters in my opinion. You can have a great product, great culture, amazing marketing that goes along with it, but you put the wrong button in the seat, and it's all kind of wasted effort. And you're correct. We get very little training on how to hire, interview, recruit, those are three different things, by the way. I'm not trying to say them synonymously. Those are three separate things. And we rarely get training on how to do those things. But even more so, Kelly, we rarely measure our hiring success rates. And let me give you the super complicated way that I've learned to do it. Okay. Here it is. Ready? You hire somebody, and 6 months later, you look back and say, knowing what I know now, would I hire that person again? Period. Exactly. End of story.
Yes.
It's not complicated. Okay. I'm being facetious. It's early in the morning over here in California. Okay. Knowing what I know now, would I hire that person again? And if you take the time to be disciplined, HR is not going to do this for you, by the way. HR is not going to do this for you. This is on you. What is your hiring success rate? Knowing what I know now, would I hire that person again? And you can get that number up to 80+%. But the reality is that most sales leaders are in the 30 to 50. This is the stats, by the way. I'm not making this up. Go research this. Go top grading, salesdrive.info. There's lots of research about there. Most sales leaders have a hiring success rate of 30 to 50%. But everybody thinks they're good at interviewing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're good at interviewing.
Yeah, I had that exact conversation this past week with somebody who's like, well, I really do well at interviews, and I'm looking at their data. I'm looking at the retention rates and fallout rates and all that kind of thing, and and we use this assessment, and we really come to rely on this assessment. I go, but do you have any idea what percentage of your salespeople are successful over the long haul? And they looked at me like, huh? No?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's right. Let's go back to what we discussed previously, resulting. Now, it may sound contradictory to what I just said, okay? If you merely look at the result of your hires, you're going to be missing out on what the most important piece, which is the whole process, the whole, recruiting and interviewing and hiring process. That is the most important piece. So if you can help improve, you make better decisions, you actually have a process. You're not asking stupid questions like a bat and a ball costs $1.10 and the bat is $1 more than the ball. How much is the ball? You're asking a dumb question. This is a real interview question, by the way.
I know. I've actually heard this one. Yeah.
It's stupid. And or which do you hate to win or do you love to lose? Or love to win and hate to lose. Some people think that's like such a mind-blowing question to ask, and I think it's galactically ridiculous. Create an intentional hiring, recruiting, interviewing, and hiring process. Be thoughtful. This is going back to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. Begin with the end in mind. Okay.
Yes.
So I want to hire a high quality salesperson that in 6 months I'll look back on and say, knowing what I know now, I would hire this person again. So with that goal in mind, I want to construct a quick but multi-step process that can help me improve my probabilities of achieving that particular goal. And rarely do people actually sit down and do it. And I've found that only in the largest of organizations that have a robust talent acquisition and HR team do they create a process like that. And oftentimes it's sort of thrust upon the managers, the sales leaders, and they don't quite understand why. And there's disparate parts moving around. There's recruiters, internal and external, and it's sort of disparate. Sales leaders should just take responsibility for that themselves. Why? Because they're the ones that have to manage these people.
And you're the one that's going to be judged by the success of your team. By the way, pro tip for you guys that are listening. Here is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. We're going to have 4 or 5 different people interview this person so that we can get a good cross-section and then make a collective decision. All 5 people are untrained. All 5 people ask completely different questions. All 5 are working on gut feel. Please tell me how that's successful. He's Kevin Gaither. It's great to have him. He's the author of It Happened on the Sales Floor. Just came out last year. Kevin, tell us where we can find out more about you.
Well, you can go to my website, insidesalesexpert.com. That's singular, insidesalesexpert.com. Or you can go and find me very active on LinkedIn. My handle is Kevin Gaither. If you just type in Kevin Gaither, you'll find me. Nice, handsome photo, no hair, still good. It's all
great
good.
Haircut. Hey, folks, absolutely take a minute. Go find him on LinkedIn. Read his stuff. It's fantastic. It's a great daily reminder of things we should be looking at. Hey, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining me on Sales Untraining. I'll see you next time.
Sales Untraining is a production of Business Locker Room and Pod About It Productions. Music and editing by Doug Branson. To get more Kelly, visit bizlockerroom.com.